Good morning, everybody. It is meteorologist Inspo Forecast, and back with the weather update, guys. Now we're going to be looking at Invest 92L now, and it does have a lot of new updates on the tracks now. Looks like it does have a bigger chance of developing the next 2 days now, so we might have to start watching out for those areas in the Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi area, those coastal areas in the Gulf of Mexico, guys. And it could potentially be a Category 1 hurricane, guys. You do know it has this huge development area for the next couple of days, and it could certainly get stronger as it's in warm waters. So if you guys want to know the impacts, who's going to get the landfall possibly, and the timing, that'll come right up. Alright, everybody, as you can tell, we're going to be looking at the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. And as you can tell, the X is the area where this Invest 92L is. As you can tell, it's actually kind of off the coast now. It's kind of in the ocean. It is in the Gulf of Mexico. You guys are gonna see in the satellite imagery. I know the X does look like it is inland for southern Georgia and the Big Bend area, but it actually is in the north eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico, just off the coast, guys. So it is in the ocean now, but the X is really big. So I know it looks like inland, but it is actually off the coast of Florida, the Big Bend. So guys, now it is official. It could potentially be a tropical storm either the next 2 to 4 days, guys, because it does have a very good chance for the next 2 days. So you can tell we do have this huge area for development to a bigger area. Oops, I did not want my highlighter out. So guys, I can tell it's a really big area. Wow, that's a really bad circle. So it is going to be taking a turn to the southwest. So it is going to be most definitely coming in this area. If we did want it to be, if it did come maybe over here, it would have maybe bigger chances for becoming a hurricane, but it's just very close off the coast now, so it's not going to have a bunch of time there. But it does have a widespread area of the next development for the next couple of days. As you can tell, it does have a 80% chance for the next 5 days, a very high chance now. I won't be surprised if it gets to maybe a 90% chance by the end of today. But look at this, guys. 48 hours is a medium chance at 50%. It's a lot bigger. Yesterday, it was actually a low chance. It was actually at a 0% chance, and it just went to 50% chance just from 1 day change. So as you can tell, we do have to start worrying about maybe coming in a bit sooner than expected. And then it does have an 80% chance again for the next 5 days. And it could potentially go into parts of the upper Texas coast, western area, Florida Peninsula, and heads towards the Louisiana area. And we actually do have some new areas for potentially a landfall. It did move a bit to the east now, so you guys want to check that out later into the video. Alright, guys, so as you can tell, here it is, this big blob area, very unorganized. It's not this, guys. That's way too off where it is. It's right here. You can tell some parts are actually still off the coast there. It's still going to be bringing in some rain for these areas for the western coast there, but you can tell the worst of it's going to be right here, right now. So that's what it's looking like there, and it does not have it's not really organized, but it is getting a lot bigger, which is kind of what you want to see. It usually gets a lot bigger before that vorticity and rotation comes in. Like, you want to see it get bigger before the vorticity starts. Once it gets really big, like it's starting to grow right now, then it's when you start to see that vorticity coming in. That's where you're going to see these outer bands come in. Like, it should get a lot more organized as it does become Tropical Storm Barry in the next couple of days, guys. And potentially Hurricane Barry. It could be like, I don't want to say a repeat of Harvey, because Harvey was a major hurricane, and this could potentially be a tropical storm or a very weak hurricane. But it will go kind of in the area where Harvey did make an impact. So yeah. So now we are going to be looking at the satellite imagery now. And you can tell, you can see not really too much vorticity here. Again, this is where it is off the coast. We are having those clouds out for the western coast of Florida. So we do have that. We kind of see some smaller bands out here, though. You can kind of see those bands out there, but that's not really an indication of anything, because it still needs to get a lot bigger. You do see some very small vorticity right here, but it does go away, and then it's just this cloud formation off the coast here of Florida, and we just need to watch out, and it could start to go right here, and this is where it does have this 5-day formation indication here. potentially affecting parts of the Louisiana coast. Potentially New Orleans can get affected by this, could potentially get affected by Barry. So these areas in the coastal areas really do need to watch out. Now we're going to be looking at the tracks. Invest 92L tracks. It's going to be very soon called the Tropical Storm Barry Guidance Model Track. As you can tell, this pink, this circle right here, is indication where it kind of is. I know it is off the coast though, but it is quite big for its size for an invest. So it is partially in inland area still. So most of the models except the TABS shows it going the opposite direction. So the TABS shows it going like the turn way too soon, showing that turn way too soon, except for this. So it's not looking like it's gonna hit Georgia or South Carolina or the southeast really. Most of the models are showing it continuing to go where that arrow's supposed to go in this cone area. This cone area is where it's supposed to be, spilling out into parts of the Gulf of Mexico in the next 2 days. Let me get this out of here. We don't want that here. So it should be getting out here into the major part of the ocean right here in the next 24 hours. And then in the next 48 hours, it should be here. So it is quite a fast-moving storm now. It was supposed to be a slow-moving storm. But the really important thing is, if the AVNI is correct, it could actually potentially be a hurricane because it's in water so much longer. And also in these areas in the gray, the TVCX and the TVCN, if that's correct, that can actually potentially be a hurricane too, because instead of making impact on the eastern part of Louisiana, it can make impact on the western part of Louisiana, which it does go deeper into the Gulf of Mexico. But again, the majority of the models are showing it going to the west and then turning in and potentially going in towards Louisiana. Some models do show it hitting the Baton Rouge area. Some of the models do show it hitting the New Orleans area. And then some of the models do show it hitting more into the western part of Louisiana, affecting parts of Arkansas and Oklahoma. But this is the general cone I'm going to draw here. This is the general cone to expect where we can expect this. So this is the tracks. Now I'll be looking at the intensity guide. So far, no models are showing it into Category 1 yet. We do have 50% chance of the models getting to tropical storm by the next 24 hours to the next latest 48 hours, to the latest 72 hours. So 1 to 3 days potentially turning into tropical storm. As you can tell, a lot of the models are showing it right now. It's an invest, of course. It's showing it getting drastically moving up there. And by the time it gets to tropical storm, some models do show it actually staying in an invest, not getting out of this invest level here. So 50% chance show it staying at an invest, and then 50% chance show it getting to tropical storm Barry, and potentially up to 50 knots. It could potentially go up here. Same thing happened with Barbara. It was really looking like it was going to stay at a Category 1, but then it drastically moved up to a Category 3, then Category 4. So again, the same thing could happen here. We have plenty of time to watch this. By the next maybe 2 days, it will be starting to get close to the Louisiana area. Now we're going to be looking at the 10-meter wind. We're going to be taking a look at two models of winds, but both from the European, because the European is favoring this. GFS, not so much. By the next 24 hours, you do see not a lot of wind here, not really much here, just up to possibly 12 knots, 14 knots there. Not a lot of action there. But by the next 48 hours, that's where we do get quite some winds, up to 26 knots for some areas. Going to bring up to 20 knots for the inland areas of Florida. But by the next 72 hours, it gets a lot more organized. This is where it could potentially get to the tropical storm status, like I said, 1 to 3 days. It does get up to getting a lot bigger, getting up to 34 knots, not reaching that tropical storm yet, but it will very soon. So based on this, based on the following the wind where it is, it could make some impact on these small little islands for eastern Louisiana, but it's not going to really make impact there. It's going to be more to the western part of Louisiana based on this, looking at that. More like to west. It's basically going to be covering all of Louisiana in the southern part. It's going to be getting up to 55 knots here for potentially affecting a lot of areas in southern Louisiana. Going to bring in actually quite some heavy winds too for the Panhandle and for the Gulf Port area, those areas can be affected too. Again, it's gonna be quite a big size. Then it does look like it does get up to 41 knots, affecting some wet soils there for the Mississippi River there. We can have a huge issue of flooding in the Mississippi River, guys. It could potentially overflow and affecting many cities widespread that are next to this, all the way potentially to the St. Louis area, and then it's going to be affecting some of the southern islands still for southern Illinois or Louisiana, and then it could potentially start to bring some up to 20 knots there for part of the Ohio Valley. And then, yeah, that's what it's looking like there for the 10-meter wind. Now to be looking at what we usually been looking at, the H50 HPA wind. Again, this is the more higher into the atmosphere, so you will have these stronger winds here. So that's why we're going to be looking at both this time. So by the next 66 hours, we do actually get it at 60 knots and high in the air. It's starting to affect Louisiana. It's a lot bigger on this one. You can see a lot bigger. Starting to affect Louisiana right in the next couple hours. And then this one looks like it does affect more of the Louisiana or more into the New Orleans area instead of really the western part. If you're in Houston now, really don't need to worry about it right now because these change every day. So it maybe does show it getting either to the eastern part of the country now or more to the western part, like into the Texas area. So based on this, it does get to 86 knots there, really affecting these areas in New Orleans, really going to devastate Gulfport here. It's going to bring it up to 104 knots here. Again, guys, this is higher in the atmosphere. It's going to be affecting Baton Rouge, the Mississippi area of Jackson. Really going to be affecting the area, and it can bring up to some areas 50 knots here, up to 52 knots, up to 56 knots for the northeast, guys. Looks like we could have some systems coming in. So it's looking like it's going to be wide traveling out here for the United States here. Even both areas show actually going up to the northeast. Now to be looking at the vorticity now. This is the most important part, really. You want to see a tropical storm or tropical system. You want to see that vorticity, that rotation, which is what hurricanes and tornadoes really need, that rotation. So the next 54 hours, you do have that rotation starts to get put already. It's starting to get a lot more organized by the 11th of July. And then by the 13th of July, it looks like it starts to make impact these winds on south central part of Louisiana. It's going to rip through central Louisiana, as you can tell. We're going to rip right through Little Rock, and rip through right St. Louis. Going to potentially bring in a lot of rotation, a lot of wind, all the way to the northeast, guys. So it could potentially even bring another second system as it gets to the northern Atlantic. Last thing we're going to be looking at, guys, is the rain totals, and this is also a very important thing we need to look at. So in the next couple hours, the next 2 days, we do actually reach up to possibly already 6 inches in some areas just in 2 days. Quite incredible, but these totals don't stop here. Next 3 days, we actually get it to 20 inches now, even a bigger jump there. We do have a lot of areas, a lot of rain. So you can kind of see where it is going to be the next 3 days. You're really going to be right here, potentially quite deep in the Gulf of Mexico there. The next 96 hours, it brings a lot more rain. It starts to bring in this very heavy rain by the 14th or the 13th to 14th of July. Going to bring up to potentially, guys, 15 inches for southern Louisiana already with these outer bands there. We're actually going to have up to 2 feet of rain in the Gulf of Mexico, guys, and it's going to be getting even worse. It's going to be stretching up to 32 inches maximum. 32 inches for some areas in Louisiana, guys. We can actually get way more than 25 inches plus here for the Louisiana, Mississippi area, guys. This is really important. By the next 10 days, it does bring in a lot of rain. You can actually see the cone just by the rain totals. You can see the cone. It's incredible how you can see this. It's going to bring so much rain for the Little Rock area. Look at the Mississippi Rivers area, guys. They're going to get up to 8 inches. 8 inches. And they're going to be bringing a lot more rain into parts of the Indiana. Not going to be really the flooding issues for Indiana. Only going to maybe 3 to 5 inches. But look at this, guys. Incredibly a lot of amount of rain. It's just incredible. So, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this forecast. Hope you guys have these new updates. I will have a second upload maybe around the afternoon hours, maybe 3 or 4, because I do have training for cross country at 6. So it just depends when I leave the house, and then whenever it's an hour before I leave, I'll start to have that out. So click that notification bell, guys, if you guys want to have the updates as soon as that second video comes out. Let's get this video up to 15 likes, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, see you guys in the next video, and bye, guys.